Hello there. Let's talk about getting you ready for the CompTIA A+ exam with some exam preparation and studying advice. So first of all, a bit of general notes about what is A+ and why you care. So CompTIA A+ is considered the starting point certification for a career in IT. You've probably discovered by now that most entry-level jobs in IT normally expect at least CompTIA A+, maybe even CompTIA Network Plus and Security Plus as well. Now, in terms of what you need to be ready to do A+, CompTIA doesn't have any absolute requirements to do the exam, but the recommendation is that you have 9 to 12 months hands-on experience in the field or in the lab. Now, don't shoot me please, that's a quote straight from CompTIA's website. And I do agree, it's a bit of a catch-22. How do you get that recommended experience when you need the certification to get experience? So that's why it's just a recommendation and not a requirement. You can make up for the experience though by playing around with some online lab tools or building a home lab for yourself, whichever might be easier and cheaper for you to do. Now, before we talk about some of the advice for getting ready, let's just talk a bit about the value of a CompTIA A+ certification. And A+ is a certification worth doing. There's a lot of debate and controversy going on about whether these certifications are worth doing or not. But at the end of the day, if that's what they're asking for in a job position, it's what hiring managers are screening for. So at the very least, it's going to help you get your foot in the door to get that job. And the reason being, it's a third-party proof between you, the employer, and CompTIA being the third party, that you have at least this much knowledge and capability to support computers and work with them. So for no other reason than just helping you get that initial job in the IT industry, A+ is worthwhile. After several years of experience and some promotions and some more seniority in IT, you probably don't have to worry so much about maintaining your A+ certification. But let's worry about getting it first, and then we can talk about maintaining it later. So for studying resources, a good friend of mine, Burning Ice Tech, has a CompTIA A+ 1101 and 1102 training course on YouTube. The playlist is in the description and here in the card at the top of the screen. Alternatively, you could purchase CompTIA's official A+ Core 1 and Core 2 self-paced study guide straight off of their online store. It is CompTIA's official guide and covers everything in the exam. At least it should. Or, if you would prefer something a bit alternative and different to CompTIA, Cybex has their CompTIA A+ Complete Study Guide, Core 1, Exam 220-1101, and Core 2, Exam 220-1102, 5th edition. It's a bit of a mouthful. But I do like the Cybex manuals. They're quite good for self-study and have been for many, many years. And then for practicing and learning stuff a bit more hands-on, CompTIA's got their Cert Master Labs for A+ Core 1 and Core 2. You can purchase the individual lab environments. I suggest get the combined one, and it's fully available on CompTIA's online store. And that will help you develop a bit of that hands-on experience and practice for... It'll help you develop that experience and practice for the performance-based questions, which we're going to explain now. So first up, let's talk about some of the exam details. So you can go straight to CompTIA's website and navigate to certifications and A+. You can't use the plus in the URL, that's why it's just A. Or you could just scan this QR code and it'll take you there as well. I've also put the link in the description of the video as well if you want to click it there. Now, in terms of details about the exam, A+ requires you to write and pass 2 exams, A+ Core 1 and A+ Core 2. The exam codes are 220. There are no prerequisites for the exam other than you have paid for your exam, and obviously you've studied so that you can pass, but that's more of your own prerequisite than CompTIA's. Now, when you do the exam, you'll get at most 90 questions per exam. Now, the reason why it's at most, but not an absolute guaranteed number, is when you sit down to write the exam, the questions are going to get pulled from a database by the exam engine. The number of questions will be dependent on a hidden difficulty score and also the weighting of various topics in the exam objectives. So effectively, you and I could sit in the exact same exam center at the exact same time, booked for the exact same exam, and get a completely different set of questions. However, the way the exam engine pulls the questions is considered fair and balanced, so we will both get a fair exam experience. Now, in terms of what the questions are like, most of the questions you get are going to be multiple choice, where you have to pick from a set of options. You'll either be picking one or more than one option, but CompTIA is pretty cool. When you have to choose more than one option, CompTIA tells you how many you need to choose. Choose 2, choose 3, whatever. So that's pretty nice. You sometimes get some true and false questions as well, but the one that a lot of people get hung up over are the performance-based questions, also known as simulations, where CompTIA simulates something that you can do in the exam. Whether that be setting up a wireless router security, configuring an email account on a mobile device, or something like that. Now, when you do a performance-based question, in the exam engine, it'll simulate the user interface and give you the ability to do what you need to do. Depending on what CompTIA is trying to test with a performance-based question, they'll either give you a very generic user interface so that you can prove that you can do, like, for example, an email account set up on either Android or iOS, because the user interface will be kind of similar to both. Or they might ask a hyper-specific thing, like, for example, configuring a network address on Windows, or something else for that matter. But please don't let the performance-based questions freak you out. There are way more multiple choice questions than there are performance-based questions in both exams. What I can tell you though for certain is you're not going to have any open-ended questions where you've got to type in an answer. The exams are closed options. That way the exam engine can mark and assess and grade you as you're going along, and when you finish the exam, you will find out your result before you even get out of the seat, which is both awesome and terrifying at the same time. You'll know what I mean when you do it. Now, you get 90 minutes per exam to do it. That is per exam, and the time is non-transferable. So if you finish your first exam in 45 minutes, you can't carry those 45 minutes over to the other exam. It's 90 minutes per exam, use it or lose it. But if you use some of the advice I'm going to give you now, you should have a great time getting through those 90 questions in 90 minutes. And remember, it's maximum 90 questions, and if you get 90 questions, you probably got a lot of easy ones. Now to pass, for the Core 1 exam, you have to hit 675 points out of 900. For the Core 2 exam, you've got to hit 700 points out of 900. And once you've passed both, you are then A+ certified. Once you are certified, you will have 3 years of validity on your certificate. After 3 years, it expires if you've done nothing to trigger a renewal. Now, there are a couple ways to renew stuff. CompTIA calls it their continual education process, and you got a total of 3 options, one of which is kind of pointless. So first, pointless one, you could just redo the A+ exam. And the reason why I say it's pointless is whether you do it before or after expiration, it will make no difference really. What would make more sense though is to do one of CompTIA's certifications that comes after A+, like for example Network Plus or Security Plus. When you pass a higher level certification with CompTIA, it'll trigger all of your valid certifications that come before that one to be renewed and expire alongside the most recent one you have done. If you go onto CompTIA's website and dig around a little bit, you'll actually see a certification renewal path that CompTIA outlines what triggers what to be renewed. Alternatively, you can also join the continual education program, which involves an annual membership fee, but then there's a variety of things that you can do to keep your certifications valid, from attending webinars to sharing transcripts of exams from other vendors. There's a lot you can do to prevent your A+ expiring or any other CompTIA certs from expiring. Now, let's work through some exam advice. So first of all, you get a flag for review button and a back button. So if you're not sure about the answer to a question straight away, flag it and come back to it later. This can help you maximize your time availability. And there's a lot of people I've known over the years who I had every faith in them passing the exam, but they didn't because they ran out of time. So flag things, come back to them later. And when the performance-based questions pop up, flag them straight away and do them at the end. Trust me, it works. Between these 2 pieces of advice, you can actually do very well with managing your time in the exam. My personal strategy whenever I do a CompTIA exam is I immediately flag the performance-based questions because they usually do pop up in the beginning of the exam. And I only do them when I'm finished with all my theory questions. I then start working through my theory questions. If I know the answer to it straight away, obviously I answer it. If I don't, I flag it and I come back to it later. And by doing it this way, my subconscious can chew on the question, and when I come back to it later, I might know the answer, or at least work out the answer more easily. And sometimes you get a question later on in the exam that actually helps you with the question you had at the beginning. So flag, move forward, come back. Use and abuse that button. And then, once you've done that all, you will have hopefully plenty of time to work through the performance-based questions where you can take your time, think about it, and deal with it more effectively. This strategy has paid off big time for me and the people that take the advice. Obviously, this is all on the premise that you have studied and prepared well for the exam, obviously. Now, you're going to get quite a few questions in the exam that are also going to pose to you a scenario. And for that, I suggest that you read the question, read through the options, and then read the question again. With a lengthy scenario and possibly lengthy and convoluted options, you might lose track and forget what the question is looking for. And sometimes that could lead you to choosing the wrong option. So do yourself that favor and read the question, read the options, go back and read the question again, and then tackle it, especially for scenarios. I promise it helps a lot. And you can also use process of elimination as well to make your life easier. If you get given a set of 4 options to choose from, chances are 2 of them are definitely wrong. 1 will obviously be right, and 1 might sound right, but is actually wrong. So if you can eliminate the 2 that you know are definitely not correct, that means you now have to choose between 2 options, given a set of 4. And even if you're not that lucky, maybe you can only eliminate 1 of the 4 options. So what? You now got a choice between 3 instead of 4. It makes your life easier. And in some cases, IT support and troubleshooting is an exercise of process of elimination. So use it. But also, make sure you don't overthink a scenario. Usually when you get given a scenario style question, which is often where a lot of people struggle, people overthink it sometimes. CompTIA will give you enough information in the question to deal with it and figure out the answer. You shouldn't have to make too many assumptions. Sometimes, yes, you have to make 1 assumption to figure out the correct answer, but that must be a very well-reasoned assumption. If you need to assume A to get to assumption B, to get to assumption C, to get to assumption D, to get to assumption X eventually, and that's why that answer is correct, you've overthought it. Flag it, come back to it later, and try and start again with a fresh mind. Because if you overthink the scenarios, you can eventually convince yourself that every option is right given the correct conditions and assumptions, which is obviously not great for you passing the exam. So try not to let the overthinking get to you. And also, don't let a new technical thing intimidate you. It'll sometimes happen that there's a question in the exam that you don't remember seeing or studying for, or you might have skipped over or missed it by accident. And sometimes you get these test questions in the exam where CompTIA is basically beta testing a new topic or a new questioning style in the exam, and that might freak you out. Now, don't let it mess with you. First of all, if it's something you missed by accident, read through the question, think about it, use what you know, and hopefully you'll be okay. One of the reasons why I obsess about maximizing your time availability is so that you can buy yourself that time to think and make the time pressure a little bit less of an issue. I promise you, you'll be able to do it. I've done it many times myself. And if anything, it's a good test of your ability to figure out something on the fly under pressure and get it done right, because it's going to happen a lot in the IT industry. Now, what about if it's one of those beta testing questions CompTIA is doing? Well, when CompTIA beta tests a question in an exam, whether it be for another set of exam objectives they're planning to bring out in the future or just a new questioning style, those questions don't count for points. They don't affect your final score. CompTIA, though, will not tell you when it's one of those questions, so that you answer it realistically. And I know I'm obsessing about the time, but that's so that you don't have to. If you try and manage your time effectively, you just need to keep your eye on the clock in the corner of the screen, but you mustn't obsess about it going, "Ooh, I'm only on this question and I've only got this much time left." If you do that flag review back, save performance-based questions for the end and stuff like that, you should be able to get this exam done in plenty of time. But don't obsess about the time, because now you're stressing, and the amazing thing about how the human brain works is the more you stress, the less you're able to think clearly. It's sort of like the harder you work, the more you panic, the more you're stressing, the less biological RAM you suddenly have available to you. So do yourself a favor, maximize your time with my advice and my tips, but don't obsess about the time. You've got this. Now you can also pass the A+ Core 1 and Core 2 exam in any order. You can pass Core 1 and then Core 2, you can pass Core 2 and then do Core 1, whatever. And hopefully this doesn't happen, but let's say that you attempt Core 1, you fail it, you do your Core 2, and then you redo your Core 1, and you pass it. CompTIA is fine with that, they know it happens. And it happens surprisingly often, mainly because IT certification exams are a very different exam experience to what you might have experienced before, whether it be at school or at college or university. And that change in the exam process and what it's like and everything you go through can sometimes be very off-putting the first time round and leads to people just having a bad experience. Once you've gone through the first time though, usually it gets better thereafter, and eventually, I promise you, with enough certifications behind your name, writing an exam just becomes pretty run-of-the-mill. The only requirement though is that you do pass both. Only when you pass both are you truly A+ certified. And the two exams must be from the same series. So for example, they must both start with the same number. As it is right now, that'll be 220-110 something. Usually 220-1101 and 220-1102. Must be from the same series. That's the only two requirements. You pass both, and they're from the same series or set of exam objectives. Now, if you want more advice and guidance, myself and Burning Ice Tech run a Discord server that you can come and check out. If you have any challenges or need some studying advice or looking for more resources, either myself or Burning Ice or one of the other members of the Discord community will respond to your questions. The link is in the description of the video, or you can scan this handy dandy QR code. Now, I wish you luck. I've got 2 exam prep videos that you can review for A+ Core 1 and A+ Core 2, so does Burning Ice Tech, and like I said just now, we've got that Discord server. Happy studying, good luck, and I hope to see you in the next video.